I disagree with the Texas judge's ruling, and the Justice Department will appeal. This is not the first time where a lower court judge has blocked something or attempted to block something that ultimately was shown to be lawful. And I'm confident that it is well within my authority.
President Obama saying the Justice Department will appeal that federal judge's ruling in Texas to block his executive amnesty.
Yeah, and the White House has put its new deportation relief program on hold, reluctantly complying with that judge's ruling.
We welcome you back for Hour 2 of America's Forum. Alongside Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth, let's get the view from the Hill, metaphorically speaking, as this is a district work period for members of the House and Senate. Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, joins us now by phone. And Ron, it is always good to have you here on America's Forum.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks. And Senator, the president saying now that it's well within his authority. That's quite a change from his previous pronouncements about his role as commander-in-chief vis-a-vis immigration policy, is it not?
Oh, sure. He repeatedly said he didn't have the power to do what he did. And, of course, last year he said, I just took an action to change the law. Now, that's an exact quote. Now, J.D., you and I, we're not the constitutional law professors or scholars like the president, but I think we realize, you know, with our limited constitutional knowledge, that the president doesn't have the authority to enact or repeal or change laws. That's what Congress does. President Obama's constitutional duty is to faithfully execute the laws. Of course, he's not doing that, and that's basically what this judge is saying. It's a pretty narrow ruling. It's really, he's violated the Administrative Procedures Act. In other words, in issuing this regulation, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson didn't offer the notice and didn't allow for comment. So he's provided an injunction under a kind of in the weeds procedures act here. But the fact of the matter is, it's good news for the Constitution.
Right. So if we're hearing you right, Senator, you're saying that the president did exceed his legal and constitutional authority. How difficult is it going to be for these 26 states to prove that, or will it?
Well, again, that's the judge really didn't rule on their ability to gain standing. In other words, show concrete harm by these acts. So that'll be probably taken up in future court proceedings. But from my standpoint, I think it's pretty obvious. When I was just down the border by McAllen, Texas last week, you see the resources that state and local governments are having to put into trying to secure our borders, arresting and holding and providing, for example, if executive actions, now people can gain driver's license. Well, the states have got to issue those driver's licenses. That costs them money. That shows harm. That should create the kind of standing they need to really move this case forward.
Ron, the Washington Post is reporting that despite the federal judge's ruling out of Texas, Democrats are going to stand their ground in this funding fight with the Republican majority in the Senate over the Department of Homeland Security. Is it true that for the time being, nothing significant has changed despite this ruling?
No, it sounds like the Democrats are pretty well hanging together in denying the Senate's ability to bring a bill onto the floor for discussion, for debate, for the purpose of trying to find some measure of compromise or accommodation so that we can do what really I think everybody wants to do is we want to keep this nation safe. We want to fund the essential activities of the Department of Homeland Security. Nobody wants to see the department shut down. We want to fund it. There's just a disagreement over let's not fund what now a federal judge has ruled is not proper activity by the department. So, I think we should all proceed with what we agree on, and that's let's fund the essential activity of the Department of Homeland Security so we can keep this nation safe and secure. But it really is Democrats that are blocking even bringing a bill onto the floor to begin that discussion and debate.
With 30 seconds remaining, your colleague, Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama, released a timeline this week. The 50-page timeline starting back in January of 2009 shows all the instances of this administration's dismantling of immigration laws. Its release comes less than 2 weeks before DHS funding is set to expire. What can we expect? 15 seconds.
Well, it's hard to predict. Hopefully Democrats will, in the end, relent and allow a bill on the floor so we can figure out some way of funding the essential elements of the Department of Homeland Security. That's what every Republican wants. Hopefully Democrats will agree.
Yeah, it would seem to me the national security implications would override the political implications, Ron. And when you say, in essence, the Democrats are trying to hold out for non-existent rights of illegals rather than protecting the homeland, it's a pretty persuasive argument. Ron, we appreciate it. Stay right there. We're coming back. More with Ron Johnson right after this.
I've taken an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States. The very precision of drone strikes and the necessary secrecy often involved in such actions can end up shielding our government from the public scrutiny that a troop deployment invites. It can also lead a president and his team to view drone strikes as a cure-all for terrorism.
President Obama back in 2013 talking about drone policy within his administration, the president in full lecture mode sometime during that speech giving the warning that it is not a cure-all in the fight against terrorism.
Now fast forward, now the administration is allowing the sale of armed drones to our allies for the first time.
Mindful of that, let's continue our conversation with Senator Ron Johnson, the senator from Wisconsin, who is a member of the Foreign Relations Committee. So, Ron, the administration and drones, selling these weapons to our allies, is that a step in the right direction?
Well, I certainly want to make sure that the sale of these drones is pretty well controlled. And now, this is not something that I've been briefed on by this administration in a secured setting. So I want to get some more information, find out exactly what the extent of this is, and to who we're going to be selling these, and what kind of level of control we're going to maintain over the operation of these drones. But I will say, in general, I'm supportive of the fact of killing terrorists. And there's no doubt about the fact that the policies that this administration has been employing so far have not been effective at, maybe some limited degradation, but we maybe degraded ISIS in some areas, but they're expanding into others. So we're not even containing ISIS, quite honestly. So we've got to certainly understand exactly what President Obama's goal is. He says it's degrade and defeat ISIS. What does he mean by that? I'm afraid his definition of defeat is not exactly my definition of it. And over what time period, and what is going to be his real strategy behind this?
Well, I want to go back to drones and sharing weapons, if we can, for a little bit. What concerns you the most? Are you concerned about allies turning into enemies in the future, or just these weapons getting into the wrong hands or tools?
Well, we have a full range of who we consider allies. Are these long-time allies that we can fully trust, like the Brits, or are these are these allies that let's face it, sometimes can be a little less than long-term? Let's put it that way. So I just want to know more about this program, and this is not something I've been briefed about, and I don't want to hear a lot more out of this administration. We'll be asking questions. I'm already asking questions, but I'm going to get a full briefing when I get back to Washington next week.
And when everyone returns to Washington, Ron, there is something else in the news we would be remiss if we did not ask for your reaction to, and what action you think should be taken. And those are the most recent atrocities reported internationally from ISIS, the beheading of the 21 Coptic Christians, and then just followed yesterday with burning alive 45 Kurds. And that last atrocity I mentioned, Ron, allegedly took place within 5 miles of the base where our Marines are training Iraqi troops there in western Iraq. What should this nation be doing as ISIS continues these atrocities?
We need to defeat them. We need to destroy them. And they're showing their barbarity, and they're also showing how ineffective our efforts have been to date. I mean, JD, would you pick a fight with the United States? I mean, I wouldn't. I would only do it if I thought that I wasn't too concerned about what the United States' reaction is going to be. And I think they've kind of taken a measure of President Obama, and they're not overly concerned, which ought to concern every American. So we've got to get serious about this. These are evil barbarians. They have to be stopped. The world has got to come together. I fully support President Obama's stated goal of degrading and defeating, assembling a coalition of Arab partners. This can't just be America. This has got to be the Muslim world rising up against this extreme version of Islam, and we've got to defeat it. We've got to have members of Arab states denouncing exactly what ISIS is doing and sharing in our efforts to finally defeat these people.
Senator, just a moment ago you were saying you're not sure if the president's plans for defeating ISIS actually fell in line with your plan to defeat ISIS. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, I'm concerned his definition of defeat is kind of contain them, try not to let the ISIS get too far out of control. So it's really his predecessors that are going to have to really carry the burden of finally wiping these people off the face of the planet. And my problem with that is I've been using the analogy of a hornet's nest. You got a hornet's nest in your backyard. I mean, are you going to take it out, or are you going to just poke it with a stick for a couple of years? I don't think we can afford to poke ISIS with a stick. As long as they're not losing, they're going to be perceived as winning. They're going to continue to be able to inspire, homegrown terrorists. They're going to be able to continue to recruit people to their cause into the Middle East. So we've got to get ISIS in the position where they are shown as losers and a losing side. Until we do that, they're going to continue to gain in strength, and that threatens the entire civilized world.
And we will have to leave it right there. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican of Wisconsin, we thank you for your time. Back to talk with the so-called mafia cops after this.